The more the Trump administration tries to put out the fire of the Epstein scandal, the more it blows up in their face. We've got new reporting and new analysis that we do on the Legal AF podcast, Ben Meiselas and me. And here's a clip.
Could also talk about Popok Alex Acosta's deposition that he took, where it's probably looked a lot like that, maybe even worse. It was behind closed doors, so we don't have the tape of it, but apparently he doesn't remember. He supports the decision to give the sweetheart deal to Epstein, but he's also never read any of the 40 victim statements, and he never was really all that much aware of the 53-page indictment that his line prosecutors wanted to file against Epstein. But he doesn't remember any other details, really. But Popok, make it all make sense, Michael Popok.
I'll try to put it through the lens of a federal litigator and trial lawyer. There's an old line, as I was watching Kash Patel, I joked with you guys offline that there's an old line about intelligence. When you keep your mouth shut, doubts about your intelligence remain. But when you open your mouth, all doubts are erased. And watching Kash Patel, the more he talked, the more obscenely unqualified to be occupying the chair of the director of the FBI, the more apparent it has become. And the cross-examinations that we watch, I was chomping at the bit. I would love to be on the committee and advising the committee about how to do some of the questioning. Some of it was done really expertly, as you just showed. The takeaway from 2 days of, not one, but 2 days of cross-examination of Kash Patel, first in the Senate and then in the House, is that they, and this is while Donald Trump split screen was trying to do a royal visit to get away from the Epstein debacle, the Charlie Kirk overreach on the First Amendment backlash, after he went after Jimmy Kimmel because he overplayed his hand, the backlash over the economy and Lisa Cook, terrible. It's enough to fill a whole administration's worth of bad news, let alone 1 week. And then he's hoping Kash Patel is going to do okay. And I've never seen a man actually drown until I saw Kash Patel in 2 days. We just showed a lot of the House clips. And he's easy to cross-examine to within an inch of his life because it's a person that has a secret and he wants to hide it from the American people, which is he knows that Donald Trump's name is lousy throughout the entirety of the hundreds of thousands of pages of Epstein files. That is the reason why we had Kash, and I would have added another cross. My cross would have started this way. Before you became the director of the FBI as a right-wing podcaster and somebody trying to collect money, you peddled in the conspiracy theories about the Epstein and trying to bring everybody to justice who was involved with that child sex trafficking ring. Isn't that right, sir? And you made a lot of money about that, grifting off of that issue. And then when you got into office at the highest level of the FBI, your minions, those that support you, were very, very happy that you and Pam Bondi would get to the bottom of this conspiracy theory and bring people to justice related to the Epstein files, right, sir? In fact, in February, after you'd only been in office a short amount of time, you and Pam Bondi co-authored a letter in which you promised the American people that no rock would be unturned, that no document would be withheld, and that everything would be released. That was in February, right, sir? And since February until today, the entirety of the release is comprised of 33,000 pages, 98% of which we've already seen, but nothing else. And what's the big difference? The big difference is that in March through May, the FBI scoured the documents looking for Donald Trump's name, found it, reported it to Donald Trump, and Donald Trump told you not to release the files. Isn't that right, sir? Is that about right? And let him, what's the alphabet? What's my number? What's my name? That's how maybe there's a clip where somebody did that, but that's the first thing I would have went after with Kash Patel and just hoist him on his own petard. But this was a very effective to show the American people, because this is our opportunity. This is the opportunity for the opposition, right? The party that's not in power can do some things. You can write nasty letters. You can issue subpoenas that may or may not be ignored. But here, during hearings and oversight hearings, you have to frame the issues for the American people. And Kash Patel drowned live on national television. including, as we've played before, where he was cross-examined about the Epstein photos of Donald Trump. This is Michael Wolff's testimony, or his statements that were played on Legal AF that ended up in the hearing room, played by Ted Lieu, that he, Epstein, saw photos, and so did Wolff, of Donald Trump with young girls on his lap. And where did those photos go after the search warrant? And where did the safe contents go for Epstein? And so, and that was Raskin and Ted Lieu and all of them. Kash Patel showed a complete ignorance about anything that goes to his job running the FBI. Like, he didn't know who Dylan Roof was. He doesn't know, they're so hell-bent on martyring and venerating Charlie Kirk that they don't know the basics of our history about mass murder, civil rights violations, and the rest. When the back and forth between Swalwell and him was very interesting, because it did remind me that Kash Patel for a short time was in the Obama Department of Justice, purportedly doing prosecutions for counterterrorism. Oh, how he has fallen since he left the Obama administration into, as Jasmine Crockett called him, the most unqualified FBI director of all time. None of that helped Donald Trump. And then he lied, either ill-prepared, because this is their other, it's a weird strategy. You and I, who've represented people and got them ready for depositions, including me when I worked in corporate America, getting Apex officers, and maybe you too, ready for their depositions. You prep them to within an inch of their life. There's some things you're like, well, you don't need to read that document, but wait to see if they use that exhibit. But generally, you want your people prepared. They have obviously sent in, whether it's a Department of Justice lawyer to answer questions to a federal judge, or it's somebody like Kash Patel or others that go before the House or the Senate. They don't want them prepared. So they look ill-prepared. They're sort of the sacrificial lambs pushed out to slaughter by Donald Trump and his the true leaders of the administration, like Stephen Miller, because no, don't let him know that fact. It's better that he doesn't know it and look stupid, such as his reference to court orders preventing him from releasing files. First of all, that popped into his head on the second day. On the first day, he never said he wasn't releasing the files, the Epstein files, because there's a court order that he can't do it. That's something that they jammed into his head between the first testimony and the second testimony. And then he got that completely wrong, as Goldman, as Representative Goldman, a real former prosecutor, pointed out. We had Donald Trump tried to feed the monster of his own MAGA with Epstein files in the version of the grand jury testimony, which consists of 3 witnesses who were summary witnesses for law enforcement. No victims testified at the grand jury. No clients testified. Epstein didn't testify. Maxwell didn't testify. Nobody testified. It's a very short, as Judge Berman pointed out, it's 1 day of testimony. Okay. And they said, well, we're transparency, Epstein files, we're going to redefine them as the grand jury files. So they went to 3 different judges: Rosenberg in Florida, Engelmeyer, who sat over Maxwell. Well, he took over from the judge who had sat over the Maxwell trial because she got elevated to the Second Circuit, and Judge Berman, who was and is the judge over the Epstein prosecution. And Engelmeyer and Berman, like a week apart, said virtually the same thing. You're barking up the wrong tree. All of the files, and Berman really brought it home, all of the files that you claim in your own filings here before my court that the U.S. public needs to see. It's of great public importance, which is your grounds for me to violate the grand jury rules of secrecy under the Federal Rules of Criminal Procedure 4E. All of that public interest and public demand and public clamor, you can satiate and fix by releasing the documents that you have acknowledged are under your command. Don't blame the federal judges, because the only thing we're sitting on is grand jury transcripts, and I've looked, and he said, both Engelmeyer and Berman said, I've looked at it in camera. There's not much there that you haven't. The victim's own civil trials led to more information. We'll get to Acosta in a second. And so somebody briefed Kash Patel and told him, or he read those orders, and the takeaway was, I can't release the Epstein files? Look, Bill Barr, in one of those other secret closed door depositions, former Attorney General of the United States under Donald Trump, said that Pam Bondi has full authority to release the files. She's got full authority to do a lot of things. We've never seen volume 2 of Jack Smith's investigation of and the results of his investigation against Donald Trump. We only saw volume 1. We didn't see the Mar-a-Lago one. Where is it? Burned in a fireplace somewhere in the Department of Justice, I'm sure. She hasn't released that either. We should make a FOIA request for that, by the way, as an entity. So now you go forward to Alex Acosta, who I don't want to say I know, he's not a friend of mine, but I did practice in South Florida at the same time he was moving around as a lawyer, and then he got elevated, a Cuban American Federalist Society guy that became the U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of Florida. Alan Dershowitz, the lawyer for Epstein, now major shill for Ghislaine Maxwell on television, who got a tremendous gift present, as we know now from the Epstein emails, that included a $1.8 million Excel spreadsheet of gifts that went to both victims and other rich and famous white guys. I'll just leave it at that for now. So Alan Dershowitz negotiates when he's not busy, as the press has reported, Julie K. Brown included, when he's not busy going after victims and trying to make them recant their stories, he's signing this non-prosecution agreement on behalf of Epstein with Alex Acosta's office, without consultation with the victims, to allow Epstein to plead guilty to a state charge of soliciting prostitution from a minor, which totally flips the script. The minor is no longer a victim. It's not raping a girl. It's like the girl is running a business, and this is almost like it's consensual. You're soliciting child prostitution is raping a little girl. I mean, I don't know how else you can put this. And that was the charge that put Epstein away for a very short amount of time and let him go back to raping girls at a child sex trafficking ring with the help of Ghislaine Maxwell. By the way, Patel also effed up the Ghislaine Maxwell rehabilitation tour to get her a pardon, because he's like, the only people that were involved with the child sex trafficking ring have been indicted and convicted. Okay, I thought Ghislaine Maxwell was a victim that needed to be given a cushy federal prison spot on her way to a pardon because she bailed out Donald Trump by vouching for him, you know? And then of course Patel forgot the talking points that he was supposed to do to throw Democrats under the bus, because he said, well, there's nobody in there. Remember, this is my favorite part. I haven't seen the files. I haven't reviewed all the files, but in the files I haven't reviewed, there's nobody else involved with child sex trafficking besides Jeffrey Epstein and whoever else. I'm like, oh, what happened to the Clinton talking point? You forgot that, right? So I'm not sure, as I agree with Cory Booker, who on the first day said, sir, I'm not sure you're long for your job. I don't think I'm going to have to see you again in another oversight hearing. Talk about throwing a drowning man a anvil or the anchor, which is what Booker did so eloquently. Alex Acosta doesn't surprise me. You know, he got rewarded for his non-prosecution agreement that left Epstein effectively on the street even longer. He got rewarded by Trump, of all people, by giving him the labor secretary position in the first administration, which he had to leave because of all of the public uproar about his involvement in the Epstein cover-up. And then went off not doing much in Miami ever since. So he doesn't want to remember anything because it's not going to help him in his career in his late stages. So he didn't remember anything, much the way Ghislaine Maxwell conveniently forgot most of what she said, including emails that she had wrote that Bloomberg got their hands on 2 weeks ago. So where are we with all of this? The Epstein cover-up scandal swirling around the Trump administration continues unabated. Yep. And the stench, I'll leave it on this, Ben, the stench of Epstein. If Donald Trump thought, you know what I need right now? I need a royal dinner. I need horses, and I need crowns, and I need, people just kissing my ass for a period. I need that. He gets welcomed at Windsor Castle instead by a mini documentary about his close personal friendship with the pedophile Jeffrey Epstein, projected on Windsor Castle by leading donkeys, a resistance group, which plays for we won't play it here, but plays for about 5 minutes, including a timeline, his comments about Virginia Giuffre and his relationship with young girls. That's how that started. There he is. That's all he wanted. He wanted to take measurements for a future golden chariot or carriage that he can have built before he leaves at the White House. But that's not what happened, because as we always say, Ben, when you travel, your troubles follow on the plane right behind you and land right behind you. Welcome back. The podcast is called Legal AF. Ben Meiselas and I put it together 5 years ago. We were joined thereafter by Karen Friedman-Agnifilo. We do it on Wednesdays and Saturdays at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, only on the MeidasTouch Network. And so that you don't have to do your own rummaging around law and politics, we do it for you without blowing smoke or sunshine. Help us continue to grow our audience. MeidasTouch YouTube channel for the Wednesday and Saturday editions at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Podcast platforms of your choice, like Spotify and Google and Apple for the podcast Legal AF. Watch us, listen to us, do both. That's how we stay atop the ratings for law and politics. All because of you. Come on over to Legal AF YouTube and Substack, and now you're a full card-carrying member of the Legal AF community. So until my next report, I'm Michael Popok. I'm Michael Popok, and I got some big news for our audience. Most of you know me as the co-founder of MeidasTouch's Legal AF and the Legal AF YouTube channel, or as a 35-year national trial lawyer. Now, building on what we started together on Legal AF, I've launched a new law firm, the Popok Firm, dedicated to obtaining justice through compassionate and zealous legal representation. At the Popok Firm, we are focused on obtaining justice for those who have been injured or damaged by a life-altering event by securing the highest dollar recoveries. I've been tirelessly fighting for justice for the last 35 years, so my own law firm organically building on my Legal AF work just feels right. And I've handpicked a team of top-tier trial fighters and settlement experts throughout all 50 states known as big auto injury attorneys who have the know-how to beat heartless insurance companies, corporations, government entities, and their attorneys. Big Auto's attorneys working with my firm are rock stars in their respective states and collectively responsible for billions of dollars in recoveries. So if you or a loved one have been on the wrong side of a catastrophic auto, motor vehicle, rideshare, or truck accident, suffered a personal injury, or been the victim of medical malpractice, employment harassment or discrimination, or suffered a violation of your civil and constitutional rights, then contact the Popok Firm today at 1-877-POPOK-AF or by visiting my website at www.thepopokfirm.com and fill out a free case evaluation form. And if we determine that you have a case and you sign with us, we don't get paid unless you do. The Popok Firm, fighting for your justice every step of the way.